Alright, we're back with Empire at War, this time Thrawn's Revenge, perhaps the most well-known Empire at War mod ever. And after years of development, it's only grown better and better. It's still not done, by the way, with future plans involving new mechanics, factions, a massive rework to Galactic maps, and more still to come down the line, whenever that may be, soon TM. Anyways, what we have here now is version 3.2, no word yet on 3.3, but I'll do my best to cover it and the other Empire at War expanded projects when they release, namely the new version of Fall of the Republic and the very exciting upcoming initial release of Revan's Revenge. Changes wise, Thrawn's Revenge is significant. Rather than something like Empire at War Remake, a mod I previously covered and another jewel in the crown of great Empire at War mods, Thrawn's isn't meant as a reimagining or modern remake of Forces of Corruption. Instead, imagine it more like a sequel in both features and setting. Thrawn's Revenge takes place post-Battle of Endor and focuses on the conflicts between the fledgling New Republic, the handful of splinter factions left over after the fall of the Empire, as well as some others, such as the Hapes Consortium, let me know if I'm mispronouncing that by the way, and the Corporate Sector Authority, likely with more to come in the future. With these fresh factions comes tons of new units, both in space and on the ground. As this is a direct follow-on from the original trilogy, there are some familiar faces and vehicles, like the venerable Imperial ISD and bulbous Mon Calamari cruiser. But overall, the Republic and Imperial rosters are mainly comprised of new units to the game that flesh them out with depth appropriate to the time period. So, unlike the original game, now everyone gets big triangles. And battles are usually determined by answering one simple question: do I have more and bigger triangles than my enemy? If yes, then you can expect to see your opponent pull the ripcord and retreat into hyperspace. Or, alternatively, get reduced to nothing as your spicy triangle prevents their escape. The other new factions field their own ships mostly outside of what the Republic and Imperials have to offer, but there is a bit of crossover. The CSA fields a mishmash of vessels including classics like the Lucre Hulk, while the Consortium has their own unique set that any Extended Universe fans out there may already be familiar with. The variety here is great, and it extends to land battles too, making them just that slightly more palatable than before. Though, if you're like me, you'll probably still end up just auto-resolving them in Galactic Conquest. Oh land battles, when will you ever catch a break? Speaking of, Galactic Conquest as a mode has been expanded here significantly. First, the number of campaigns on offer are much increased over the original, and there's a ton of different options. You've got choices across different eras of the Star Wars universe post-Battle of Endor, with each being playable by select factions depending on the setting and the story being told. Of course, you also have your full galaxy, all factions available across all eras option 2, if you just want to go big mode. But what are eras, you might ask? Well, in Galactic Conquest, they're essentially a replacement to the tech levels of the original game, and they're complemented by some of the other new mechanics Thrawn's Revenge has introduced. Eras advance as in-game time progresses. At these breakpoints between each era, things can happen on the galactic map. You might receive a new unit, a new technology might become available, a special event may occur, or a range of other things could come to be. In-game you can choose to either see what's coming in the spoilers menu to play around it, or just let things play out and see what happens. Other new mechanics make the galactic map a much more engaging and in-depth place than the original game. Resource management is a big one, which was basically non-existent before except for a simply weekly credit income. Now there's food and industry to worry about, which affect how much income planets bring in and how effective they are in their production of units and structures. Influence is here too, again affecting planets on an individual level. If your influence over a planet gets too low, there's a chance it can revolt, forcing it out of your hands. Ship crews are the final resource to manage, essentially acting as a limiter on how many triangles you can deploy from your shipyards. Those triangles ain't gonna fly themselves. You can increase your number of new weekly crews by building some of the new ground structures available for planetary development. And the same goes for the other resources like food, industry, and taxation. The last new mechanic I want to shout out here, as I think it's just cool, and extremely thematic, is how the different Imperial splinter factions are managed. Obviously, they're all competing to be the one true successor to the Empire, each trying to outclass the other. How it works then is that if an Imperial faction is reduced to a handful of planets, has had their leader killed, and doesn't control a superstar destroyer, then the leading Imperial faction by legitimacy will take command of anything that faction still controlled. It's a great way to implement and show this tug of war between the different groups, and having legitimacy be increased by controlling key worlds like Coruscant and Kuat, among other things, is a fun way to do it. Galactic Conquest here is a thoroughly different beast to the mode first seen in Empire at War. It's an impressive overall package, and if it weren't for a couple of downsides that we'll discuss in a couple of minutes, mostly down to flaws in the base game, I'd have basically nothing bad to say about it. Thrawn's Revenge does have another secret in its Fleet Builder mode, which is essentially a sandbox skirmish game where you can immediately build up a fleet of your own imagination to duke it out. Unfortunately, I couldn't seem to play this one, as it consistently crashed whenever I started it. So I guess I'll just give it another crack when 3.3 launches. Let me know if yours works in the comments, or how to fix it for that matter. For me, Thrawn's Revenge feels like a sequel to Empire at War, as it doesn't simply focus on one thing, such as a new roster of ships, a visual or interface upgrade, or a top-to-bottom rebalancing. It's really all of those things, as well as being set in an era that continues on from where the original trilogy left off. The expanded lists of ships and factions are obviously one of my favourite aspects of the mod. I'll admit that I'm not that knowledgeable on the Star Wars extended universe to any degree, so seeing all this new stuff remains fun and exciting. Maybe it wouldn't be for you if you knew everything from the EU already. But besides that, the gameplay implications from expanding the original game's 3 factions to 8 and increasing the unit count by 2 or 3 times are obviously quite significant. There is a ton more variety with simply more things to do, in no small part to the Galactic Conquest maps and accompanying mechanical changes that go along with them. I do think this is the real selling point of Thrawn's Revenge, as they add so much replay value to even the most experienced Empire at War veteran. The inclusion of eras is a great idea, and again, just the number of options you have to play in these campaigns is staggering. There really isn't a lot to complain about here, but there are a couple of things, though they mostly come down to being limitations of the game it's built on, rather than the mod itself. The major one is performance, which I think is something I've talked about in every Empire at War mod video that I've ever made. The engine just cannot handle so many things going on, particularly in big space battles and extra particularly in multiplayer, thanks to the increased total population cap you get when adding new players or AI. While it's not much of a problem in the campaign, other times the game can often slow to what feels like 25% speed, which you do get used to a little, but it remains a significant pain point. As I said, it's exponentially worse in multiplayer skirmishes, which is unfortunate because that's mostly what I like to do in these mods, and that's due to a couple of reasons. Obviously, there's the total population count being higher, as mentioned, plus the maps are often a lot bigger, and because the AI is generally not too difficult, if I'm comp stomping with a friend or two, then we just need to add more AI players to increase the difficulty, which in turn makes performance worse. This isn't like AoE 2 where we can go 2v1 on an extreme difficulty computer opponent and find a challenge. The difficulties here are just easy, medium or hard, so sheer numbers are the only option in increasing the challenge. Next to performance, the UI is the only major complaint I have. Again, this is a symptom of the base game, but in Galactic Conquest especially, things are often hidden away in a menu, very difficult to notice, or simply unclear. If you've got a planet that's about to come under attack, for example, this is your only notification, and there's no way to quick move to said planet to prepare in any way. Another thing is how a lot of the information on your faction and planets is stored. It has to be delivered like missions are in the base game, so it's in these little screens written in plain text with like 1 or 2 color options. There are other things too that are a bit scuffed in how they're implemented. It's just a shame that Empire at War didn't have a better way from the get-go to manage stuff like this. It all makes for an interface that's pretty tough for a new player to wrap their head around, and I'd guess it's the main reason why someone like that would bounce off Thrawn's Revenge. For any of you out there in that position, just trust me that it's worth it to stick at it. Just take some time, learn what all the buttons do and all the screens mean, and you'll be set. But in saying all that, I do want to give full credit to the dev team here, because they've added a ton of functionality into a game that had nothing of the sort from the factory. They've done their best with what they have to work with, and in that respect, they really have done an incredible job. Right, let's wrap this up. Thrawn's Revenge is great. You know it, I know it. Go download it if you haven't already, and if you have, then you don't need me to tell you to get it again. You're probably playing it right now with this video on your other monitor, aren't you, Tom? One thing I will say is that if you've somehow never played Empire at War before and have found yourself watching this video and got to the end, and you want to give Thrawn's Revenge a go, I'd recommend maybe trying out the base game first. The mod can be a little overwhelming and it introduces a lot of mechanics, so it might be best to figure out the core modes first. But hey, I'm just a guy on the internet, you can do whatever you like. Relevant links are in the description. You can pick up Empire at War and Thrawn's Revenge on Steam, and it's super easy to set up and play. Just subscribe to the mod, and you'll see it in the Forces of Corruption mod menu in-game. Thanks very much for watching, and big thanks to those who support me on Patreon and through YouTube memberships. You can join for just $1 a month, and with that you'll get access to our community Discord, among other things at higher tiers. So thanks very much to Aero, Crizzy218, Jack, Nutty Jawa, Overlord Jeebus, T-Edits, Crispy Robo Chicken, XV204, Benjamin Howard, Benjamin, David, Cynical Cheddar, Sebastian, Dakayo, David, Nintendo, Bad Ghosts, Sean, Gracebird4, Peter, Tim and Netters, who are both new, thanks very much guys, and George, who upgraded from the Knight tier. Thanks man. And of course thanks to my paladins, huge thanks to my paladins, Johnny Woof, Strateger, and Eric. And thank you all again very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.